You don't forget the sound of a zipper when it's sealing off the version of your life you thought was real. It's strange how something so small, metal teeth gliding into place, can feel like a door slamming shut, like a verdict being handed down, like the final line of a chapter you never wanted to end. I stood across our marble island, arms folded, watching Lena zip up her suitcase like she was finishing a chore and not walking out on the life we built, the vows we exchanged, or the man who had never once walked away from her. She moved with that same cool efficiency she showed when she organized the spice cabinet alphabetically or folded laundry in perfect thirds. No hesitation, no guilt, just control, just calm. That was the part that cut deepest, how unfazed she looked. "That's it, huh?" I asked, my voice tighter than I meant it to be. "You're really going to Vegas with him?" She didn't even bother to meet my eyes. Instead, she kept packing, sliding heels into dust bags like she was preparing for a girl's brunch, not a weekend with her overly handsy boss. Her tone came out smooth, airy, dismissive. "It's a sales retreat, Matt. Don't turn this into something it's not." I stepped closer, slow at first, then faster as the heat behind my ribs ignited. "You mean, don't turn it into what it obviously is. You and your boss alone in a suite at the Bellagio. Sounds super professional." That finally made her pause. She set down her straightener, turned, and gave me that tight-lipped smile she reserved for idiots and inconveniences. The smile that said she thought she was above the conversation, above me, above the marriage that once meant something. "Don't be insecure," she said. I laughed once. Dry, bitter, sharp. "Right, because nothing screams trust like a surprise overnight trip with your overly flirty boss in Sin City. Totally normal." Her jaw tightened, but she kept her voice light, controlled. "You're being ridiculous." "Am I?" I asked. "Then tell me why you're wearing that perfume, the one you only break out for weddings. Or why the same guy who texts you meeting rescheduled at midnight is suddenly flying you first class." She stepped past me, her heels clicking sharply against the tile. Click, click, click. Each step like a gunshot echoing in the kitchen. "You fix trucks, Matt," she said. "You wouldn't understand how real business works." That line hit harder than any accusation could. "I didn't let it show, you're right," I said quietly. "I fix things, you run from them, like this conversation." She grabbed her bag. "You're making a scene." "No." I stepped in front of the door, planting my hand on the frame. "You made a scene the second you lied to my face." Her eyes narrowed. "Move." "I didn't. Tell me you're not sleeping with him." Her lips parted, but no sound came out, and behind her eyes something flickered. Guilt, fear, hesitation. I couldn't tell which, but it was enough. "You can't even say it," I whispered. "That's all I needed to know." She tried to brush past me, pushing my shoulder. "Matt, stop. You're acting crazy." But I wasn't the one wearing perfume for a work retreat. I wasn't the one hiding texts from my boss at midnight. I wasn't the one packing a suitcase with lingerie she hadn't worn around me in months. "You know what's crazy?" I asked, my voice low, steady, calm in a way that didn't match my heartbeat. "Staying married to someone who thinks loyalty is optional." That one struck, she froze. Her hand fell from the doorknob, and for the first time, she actually looked at me. Really looked like she was seeing a stranger instead of the man who'd stood beside her through every hard moment. Then she said it, soft, cruel, final. "You're just boring." The floor tilted under me. She sighed, exhaling irritation more than regret. "I outgrew all of this dusty garage fantasy. I need more, Matt, more than late night takeout and oil-stained jeans, more than a husband who's always tired and never dreams big." I let the words settle. I didn't defend myself, didn't argue, didn't beg. "Then pack more than your suitcase," I said. "Pack your excuses, your secrets, your fake smiles. Take it all." Her throat bobbed as she swallowed. Then she opened the door and walked out like she didn't just detonate our entire marriage in one sentence. Her heels hit the driveway, the car door slammed, the tires rolled away. The silence she left behind wasn't peaceful. It was personal. "My name is Matt Torres. I fix things, but some wrecks, they're meant to be totaled." The next morning, I opened the garage earlier than usual, not because I had appointments, because I couldn't sit still. The house felt like a crime scene, like the walls had soaked up her last words and played them on loop. "You're just boring." I threw myself into work, elbow deep in a '93 Silverado, hands black with grease. Every stripped bolt felt like an attempt at control. Every clang echoed her voice in my skull. "Don't be insecure." Funny thing about that word, it's a weapon disguised as reassurance. It's used to stop questions, not answer them. It paints suspicion as weakness instead of intuition. And deep down I knew, I'd known for months, the perfume, the late nights, the constant work emergencies that seemed to require lipstick. Around noon, I wiped my hands, grabbed my phone, and called Adam. My closest friend, blunt, loyal, rough around the edges. "She left this morning," I said. Adam exhaled like he'd been expecting this. "Jesus, Matt," she says it's work. "And you believe that?" he asked, not for a second. We talked briefly. He didn't push, he didn't pity me. He just reminded me I wasn't crazy, that men like her boss didn't circle without reason. Then he said the one thing I couldn't say aloud: "You deserve better, brother." I didn't respond. I just went back to work with that truth rattling inside me like a loose bolt. By sundown, the shop was quiet, too quiet. The kind that amplifies everything you don't want to feel. The kind that turns memories into ghosts. I drove home slowly. The streets looked the same, people walking dogs, neon signs flickering over taco shops, desert wind carrying dust across the pavement. But everything felt different, detached, like I wasn't part of this version of my life anymore. Inside the house, her absence was louder than any argument we'd ever had. Her mug still in the sink, her half-used lemon in the fridge, her voicemail blinking like a warning light. I sat on the couch, turned on the TV, turned it off again, the silence pressed around me like a fist. Then it hit me, she hadn't texted, not a landed safe, not a talk later, nothing. Even in our worst fights, we always checked in. That rule was sacred, but not anymore. I opened our message thread. No new messages, none since Thursday. My thumb hovered over the keyboard. I wanted to ask if she was okay, if she'd arrived, if we were still us. But I refused to give her the satisfaction of seeing me care more than she did. So I closed the phone, set its screen down, and watched the ceiling until my thoughts turned sour. By 4 a.m., I was back in the garage, sitting on a stool, staring at a carburetor I didn't need to fix. Because everything inside me felt like a countdown, like something big was coming, like the truth was already out there waiting to show itself. And I was right. 3 days later, she returned, just like that, as if nothing happened, as if she hadn't left me twisting in silence while she spent the weekend with another man. I pulled into the driveway and saw her car already parked. Her suitcase stood upright by the door, pristine, untouched by regret. Inside, the house smelled like roasted garlic and basil. She was in the kitchen humming, smiling, cooking pasta like she hadn't detonated our marriage 3 days earlier. "Hey, stranger," she said casually. "Dinner's almost ready." I stared at her like she was a stranger wearing my wife's skin. "You didn't call," I said flatly. She blinked. "I figured you were busy. I was swamped with meetings, and well, you know how Vegas is." No, I didn't, not her version of it anyway. She talked nonstop about the chandelier in the lobby, the team building, the awkward toast Mark made. Every detail sounded rehearsed, polished. She served me pasta, sprinkled parmesan, poured wine, touched my shoulder lightly. Then her phone buzzed just once, a soft vibration on the marble. A name lit up the screen, Mark Spencer. And under it, "Last weekend was unforgettable. Let's not wait too long to do it again." It hit me like a brick to the chest. Lena reached for the phone. I stopped her. "What was that?" She froze just half a second, but enough. "What was what?" "The message from your boss." She laughed lightly, too lightly. "Oh, that. It's just Mark being Mark. He jokes like that with everyone. Don't make it weird." "He jokes like that with married women." She rolled her eyes. "Matt, come on. He flirts. He's harmless. Let's not wait too long to do it again," I repeated. That sound harmless to you, she sighed, crossed her arms, defended herself like she'd been practicing the script. You're reading too much into it. We were at a conference. We had a couple drinks. It's part of the scene. So it happened. I said softly. Whatever you're calling it, you just admitted something happened. Her face hardened. I admitted nothing. You twist everything. No, I said. I'm finally seeing things clearly. We stared at each other from opposite sides of a canyon we both dug. Then she turned away. I'm not doing this tonight. I didn't stop her as she walked upstairs, but I didn't eat my pasta either. I just sat there, listening to her phone buzz with secrets she thought I'd never uncover, and something inside me sharpened. Snapped, solidified. This wasn't a misunderstanding. This was a truth she'd been hiding in plain sight. When she went upstairs to change, I discovered the second crack in her story. Her email was still open on the counter. A hotel invoice, Bellagio, room 721. King Suite, 2 guests. That was all the confirmation I needed. I didn't remember standing up. I didn't remember walking to the bedroom, but suddenly I was there, watching her tuck her hair into a bun like she hadn't just lied to my face 5 minutes ago. You done interrogating me, she said. I didn't respond. I walked to the closet, grabbed a duffel bag, dropped it on the bed. What are you doing? Packing. For what? Not for me. She blinked rapidly. Matt, you're being dramatic. No, I said. I'm being deliberate. The headlights of distant cars flickered like restless fireflies along the mountain road, but Catherine barely noticed them. Her thoughts churned relentlessly, dragging her between the present moment and the events she had tried so hard to bury. The rest stop's cold concrete beneath her boots brought her back to reality, but only just. The ranger's voice still echoed in her mind even hours after the encounter. People get lost out here. Not everyone wants to be found. She had nodded then, convincing herself the warning was general, nothing directed at her specifically. But the ranger's eyes had lingered too long, like he knew more than he was willing to say, like she wasn't merely a stranger passing through. Catherine pulled her coat tighter, her breath forming thin fog ribbons in the freezing dusk. The forest behind the building loomed deeper than before, shadows stacking on shadows, forming shapes that seemed ready to step forward if she blinked too long. She didn't want to look at the trees. She didn't want to remember, but memory doesn't care about want. The road ahead, or what pretended to be one with stiff fingers, she returned to her SUV and shut the door, welcoming the temporary cocoon of warmth. The dashboard clock blinked 4:47 p.m., even though the world outside looked closer to midnight. She tapped the steering wheel anxiously. The plan was simple, at least on paper: drive to the cabin, collect the documents, leave before nightfall. Except falls in these mountains swallowed daylight faster than she could drive, and she hadn't accounted for delays. Or for the feeling she had the moment she stepped out earlier, like the forest was watching her. Her phone buzzed weakly, 1 bar of service, trying and failing to stabilize. A text came through in fractured pieces from Daniel Cathy, please just let me know you're all right. I'm worried, call, don't go back there. The final fragment hit her chest like a blunt object. Don't go back there. She exhaled shakily, too late for that. The mountain remembers the road wound upward, curling like an arm guarding something ancient. Catherine followed the lines by memory as much as by sight. She had driven this route once before, last winter, when the snow was heavy and her panic even heavier. She had sworn never to return, and yet here she was. The higher she drove, the more the world seemed to constrict. Trees pressed closer, darkness thickened, the faint remnants of sunset bled out into a bruised horizon. Her mind insisted on replaying what happened last year, the night that ended the life she had before. A sharp turn, a scream, a body on the road, no laying, reaching, her brakes locking, impact. She squeezed her eyes shut for a split second, but the memory stayed sharper than the cold. The sheriff had called it an accident. Locals whispered it wasn't, and Catherine had run from the truth, from the town, from herself. Until now, arrival the cabin finally appeared between the trees, a slanted roof barely visible under the weight of pine branches and a porch railing fractured by time and storms. Its windows were dark, the kind of dark that looked deliberate. Catherine parked and immediately regretted turning off the engine. Silence crashed around her like a physical force. When she stepped out, the air was colder, sterile. Like nothing living dared breathe here. Keys in hand, she approached the door. The wood was rough beneath her fingers, swollen from a year of neglect. She pushed, expecting resistance, but the door drifted open too easily, as though it had been waiting. Her stomach tightened. Inside, dust coated everything, but the space wasn't empty in the way she expected. A lamp lay shattered on the floor, chairs were overturned, her papers were scattered. Someone had already been here. Someone who didn't want her to find what she came for. Unwelcome echoes. Catherine stepped inside slowly, boots crunching soft debris. The air carried a faint burnt smell, wood, plastic, something worse. She couldn't tell. Her flashlight beam swept over the living room, freezing for a moment on deep scratches along the wall. Not claw marks, human, angry, carved with something sharp, 4 long strokes, a space, 4 more, like tally marks. A logbook of time or victims. Her heart pounded so loudly she barely heard the floor creak behind her. But she turned nonetheless, instincts firing like stabs of lightning. Her flashlight caught nothing but empty air and the open doorway. No shape, no movement, but someone had been standing there. She was certain of it. She could almost feel the displacement of the cold air where a figure had just been. And then a faint metallic sound, not from behind her, from the back room, the room she dreaded most. The room of yesterday. She forced her feet forward. Each step seemed heavier than the last, as if the cabin were swallowing her into the past. The door to the back room was half open, a strip of darkness cutting across the floor. Her hand trembled as she nudged the door wider. Inside, the room appeared untouched since the night she fled. A single overturned chair, a cracked photo frame, and on the floor, the last thing she wanted to see, the heavy flashlight she dropped during the accident's aftermath. The one covered in dried mud last year, now clean, recently handled. Someone had touched it. Someone knew she would return. Her throat tightened. She whispered into the silence, "Who's here?" The cabin breathed in response. The wood expanded with a slow groan, then a whisper, soft behind her left ear, "Catherine." She spun nothing. But the voice wasn't imagined. It was real, too real, and it wasn't the voice of anyone alive. A truth she could no longer outrun. Her panic surged, but her mind sharpened. She swept the room again, searching for any sign of life or death. Something metallic reflected her flashlight from beneath the desk. She knelt, a knife, but not just any knife, the ranger's knife, the one on his belt earlier that day. The one engraved with initials, J.R. Jonathan Reddick, the missing ranger. Her blood turned to ice. He was here. He had been in this cabin. And judging by the dried rust, brown stain on the blade, he hadn't left on his own terms. Suddenly, the whisper made sense. Not a ghost, a warning. Someone didn't want witnesses. Not the night of the accident. And not tonight. Before she could react further, her phone vibrated violently in her pocket, a call forcing itself through the weak signal. "Daniel," she answered, breathless. "Daniel, I'm at the cabin. Something's wrong." Someone's static swallowed her words. A voice broke through, not Daniel's, lower, ragged, smiling. "You came back." The call cut. The cabin lights, even those long dead, flickered once, like an exhale. And behind her, the front door slammed shut.